Talks. I'm Cathy Yang, your intel in the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, a proposal to keep call centers in the U.S. looms as the Philippines' next big challenge following 19% tariffs on exports. We speak with Joseph Yap, former president of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies. As policymakers race to the root of ghost flood control projects, Philippine corporates get a shot at investing in adaptation solutions. Nisha Alicen of DA Market Securities joins us live. And the Bangko Sentral vows to sustain reforms as the Philippines officially exits the European Union's high-risk money laundering list. A proposal in the U.S. targeting offshore call center operations could be a drag in the Philippine BPO industry. U.S. lawmakers from both parties filed the Keep Call Centers in America Act of 2025. This will impose restrictions on American firms outsourcing their call center operations, including being ineligible for federal grants or guaranteed loans for a period of 5 years. The Information Technology and Business Process Association of the Philippines, or IBPAP, recently said it is still studying the impact of the proposal. The group recently partnered with former Albay Congressman Joey Salceda to protect the industry from isolationism, rapid automation, and aggressive upskilling of competitors like Vietnam. John Paulo Rivera of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies says the bill poses a clear risk to the BPO industry. He said withholding grants for such firms, quote, raises the regulatory and reputational costs for offshore operations. Trade Secretary Cristina Roque said Monday that diversification is key to cushion the potential impact of the bill. Roque vows to assist IBPAP, though no discussions have been made so far. The BPO industry employs over 1.4 million Filipinos and generates about $38 billion in revenues. Our first guest says the export performances of the Philippines vis-a-vis Indonesia and Vietnam is sufficient proof of how a closer alliance with the U.S. has adversely affected the Philippines' economic trajectory. With us now for more is the former president of the Philippine Institute for Development Studies, Joseph Yap. He is currently Senior Research Fellow at the Ateneo de Manila University School of Government. Good to see you, Joseph. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So you're saying the Philippine deal remains inferior compared to that of Vietnam and Indonesia. Let's pull up that chart and show exactly why, using effective tariff as basis.
Yeah, the numbers are actually based on an article published by Joey Salceda, which was reported in the Daily Inquirer. I just wanted to clarify and explain that it doesn't really show that the Philippines has a superior deal, as he claims, to that of Indonesia and Vietnam. But actually, the main point of the policy note that I wrote with Francis Kimba, and this is the elephant in the room, is that the Trump tariff plan is based on erroneous concepts, okay? These are falsehoods, incorrect statements. So let me briefly explain. So one of the assertions of President Trump is that countries are ripping off the U.S., trade deficits are bad for the United States. But this is not true. Trade deficits are not necessarily bad. The U.S. has not been ripped off. As a matter of fact, it has the highest per capita GDP among the G7 countries. A simple example, let's say you go to the grocery regularly or once a month and spend 20,000 pesos a month. So for the full year, your deficit with the grocery will be 240,000 pesos. Okay, are you being ripped off by the grocery? No, not at all. Right? So having a trade deficit is not necessarily bad. The second misconception is that that 19%, which originally was 17%, is based on a nonsensical formula. The formula that was used doesn't make sense, economic sense at all. The third misconception is that they argue that imposing these tariffs will allow uh, reshoring activities, okay, reshoring activities, uh, especially in manufacturing sector. Okay, so question number one: why are they also imposing tariffs on coffee and bananas? Will this allow the U.S. to suddenly have a coffee industry, except for Hawaii, of course, and a banana industry? Second, uh, this goal of reshoring manufacturing activities assumes that there is a pool of workers in the U.S. who will be willing and able to sew clothes, make shoes, and assemble iPhones. That's an erroneous assumption.
Could we take it from
And
that particular view that you have? That's it's an erroneous assumption. Service exports, that's huge. If ever a lot of the U.S. companies do move back, because they wouldn't get any incentives if they didn't, and they stayed in the Philippines, what impact would that have on us? We're already
okay,
facing 19% tariffs on products, exports. What about
yeah,
service exports?
we have the context. We have to remember the United States has a very vibrant services sector. Last year, the US exported $8 trillion in service exports. It has a surplus of $295 billion last year in service exports. Okay. And by the title alone, based on the title alone, Keep Call Centers in America Act. Okay. It's already, based on this title, uh, this proposed bill is misguided. The assumption is that if uh, once the U.S. firms are compelled to reshore call centers, there will be a ready pool of workers available who would want to take over the jobs that are being held now by Filipinos, Indians. Again, I doubt I seriously doubt that this will be the case. They will realize sooner or later that they don't have the manpower to do this. Remember, throughout history, what has happened is division of labor, wherein each country takes on activities that where they have a comparative advantage. So the U.S. has high-end services, the Philippines, India, lower-end services. Although the Philippines has been inching up the value-added chain, we already have software developers and computer programming. So this is a totally misguided proposal
All
from the
right, so it's
U.S.
misguided and it's unthinkable right now, but we gotta move a step ahead. And I know that you have been proposing closer collaboration with the ASEAN. If we talk about service exports, call centers, and saving all that here in the Philippines, how are we able to find points of collaboration within the ASEAN to ensure that we get a better deal in the next
Yeah.
round?
We already have the platform, and that is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. That's a platform that we have to take advantage of, utilize, and adapt to have a united front in this trade war, global trade war that was instigated by the US. By the way, India should reconsider its decision not to join RCEP. I am almost certain that within the next few months, India will go back to the fold. They started negotiations with RCEP. For some reason, they backed off. I think now they have to reconsider their decision.
Could we find points of collaboration then if indeed India joins CIMEPA or SEPA? Are we able to
Yeah.
find points of collaboration because they're also a big call
Yes.
center business?
Yes. Uh, there's again, we can adopt a united front in negotiating with the U.S. and pointing out the futility of trying to get back call centers in the U.S. Well, RCEP will be more useful in trading goods among ourselves. We will expand trade, uh, looking at global supply chains, which will advantage all the member countries of RCEP. And we have to have closer cooperation with the EU.
All right, well, let's take that down further into the blueprint, because I know that you've come up with this blueprint that doesn't simply react to whatever unpredictability we're going to face. Take us through that list then. I mean, how do we start? Where do we begin?
I have to credit my co-author, Francis Kimba, for conceptualizing this blueprint for the future. Strengthening coalitions, that's important. So in order to adopt a united front and then build alternative frameworks, actually his proposal is that we have to veer away from the US dependency and then increase competitiveness of domestic industries. We can cooperate with our partners in RCEP and the EU to strengthen the capabilities of our domestic firms, local firms, agents, and then perhaps in terms of call centers, the EU might welcome more collaboration with the Philippines. And then we have to assert the rule-based order. By the way, the other misconception about the Trump tariff plan, it violates international law, WTO agreed upon rules. You cannot simply increase tariffs arbitrarily. And the Trump administration did that. That violates WTO guidelines.
All right, well, it's not too late then for that collaboration that we've been looking for with the ASEAN and the rest of the world. Outside America, thank you so much, Joseph Yap of Ateneo. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee began its probe on anomalous flood control projects, and Public Works Secretary Manuel Bonoan admitted that some of them may not even exist at all. Senator Jinggoy Estrada cited alleged ghost projects in Calumpit, Hagonoy, and Malolos, all in Bulacan. Only one contractor is behind these projects, Wawaw Builders, which bagged almost 6 billion pesos of flood control deals in the first engineering district of Bulacan.
But do you still believe that there are ghost projects there? Or there were ghost projects?
In all candidness, Your Honor, I think so.
So yung 5 billion na inaward sa Wawaw Builders para sa province Bulacan
First engineering.
are all ghost projects.
There seems to be some ghost projects actually as reported, Your Honor.
Are you investigating this right now?
Yes, Your Honor, we're investigating it.
What is the status of your investigation?
They will be coming up with their financial and physical report in 1 week's time, Your Honor, to my office.
Nabayaran na ba yung itong Wawaw Builders? Bayad na ba? Please check your
Yung mga
records.
projects na na-complete, yung mga projects that have been filed, palagay ko na nabayaran na po lahat to.
In an interview on The Big Story, Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando expressed shock by Bonoan's revelations and maintained that the DPWH has been bypassing the provincial capital all along.
May mga project talaga sila na DPWH, ginagawa na lang nila, nagugulat kami, nagawa na. Ano pa, nandiyan na pala yan. Well, ganito yan. Kundi ko nga po sila pinatawag, noong 2023, hindi po talaga nag-report. Sa totoo lamang. Talagang hindi po dumaan sa amin. Kaya nga gumawa po ko ng ADO committee para malaman ko yung mga master plan. Na malaman namin yung master plan. Wala akong binibigay na master plan.
The committee subpoenas 8 of the 15 contractors that skipped yesterday's hearing. Among them were 2 firms associated with defeated mayoralty candidates Sara Diskaya, Alpha and Omega, and St. Timothy. Some contractors cited medical procedures and overseas trip as reasons for their absence. With most projects built in Bulacan, the governor of Isabela appealed in an interview with Storycon that his province and that of neighboring Cagayan need more of the same to mitigate flooding.
Actually, masama loob ko dyan eh. Kasi dapat, instead of number 3 kami dyan sa list, dapat kami naging number 1 eh. Kasi talagang flood-proof ang Isabela. Isabela at Cagayan. Nagtataka rin ako bakit wala sa listahan yung province of Cagayan doon sa mga binigyan ng flood control projects. Pero I'm happy kung 314 but also I'm sad also, no? Kasi dapat mas marami pa.
The Bangko Central's net income more than doubled in the first quarter on the back of a larger net foreign exchange gain. Preliminary data shows the central bank's net profit surged by 122.1% to 40.2 billion pesos, up from 18.1 billion in the same period last year. Revenues, however, slightly declined to 67 billion pesos from 67.1 a year prior. RCBC Chief Economist Mike Ricafort said the BSP's strong earnings reflect financial prudence and signal greater financial ammunition in fulfilling its mandate of stabilizing prices. The Konektadong Pinoy bill is just days away from lapsing into law, and telcos are now turning to the implementing rules and regulations as their next move. PLDT and Converge said they are ready to work with the DICT on drafting the IRR to address industry concerns. PLDT earlier warned of a possible legal challenge, but said it is studying all options while supporting President Marcos's push for greater connectivity. Converge CEO Dennis Uy stressed that private sector input is key, saying stronger rules will benefit consumers. The bill, which seeks to expand internet access by opening the market to more players, has drawn opposition from telcos. Globe's president renewed calls for a veto, while Dito pushed for a level playing field. DICT Secretary Henry Aguda earlier expressed confidence Marcos will sign the measure, calling it pro-consumer and not anti-telco. In an interview with thought leaders, he said concerns can still be addressed through the IRR.
Well, before it's signed, they made their appeal, actually. But I think the venue, the better venue for any adjustments in the implementation would be in the IRR. And I've given my personal commitment to them that this will be a collaborative effort. You know, this is not intended to handicap the existing telco providers. In fact, I have the highest respect for them. We can disagree on some aspects, but when it comes to the greater public good, we all come together, government and private.
You're watching Money Talks, coming right up. Sustained reforms from the Bangko Central as the Philippines is officially off the high-risk money laundering list of the European Union. And our conversation with Misha Alicer of DA Market Securities in a few minutes. Keep it here on One News. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. The Bangko Central vows to sustain its reforms as the Philippines is now off the European Union's list of high-risk countries for money laundering. Bangko Central Governor Eli Remolona, who also chairs the Anti-Money Laundering Council, said they are identifying areas to further strengthen the country's anti-money laundering or countering terrorism and proliferation of financing framework. The European Commission earlier removed the Philippines and 7 other countries from its high-risk list, citing progress in upholding global standards. This follows the country's removal from the FATF grey list in February and the UK's high-risk list in March. In corporate news, Meralco Powergen Chairman Manuel Pangilinan and Aqua Power Chairman Mohammad Abunayan paid a courtesy call on President Bongbong Marcos in Malacanang to discuss renewable energy projects. The meeting, held on July 31st, followed an MOU between MGen and Aqua Power to develop solar and other renewable projects in the Philippines and Southeast Asia. They're also studying up to 1,700 megawatts of potential solar capacity nationwide, leveraging Aqua's global portfolio and MGen's local footprint. Energy officials and company executives also joined the discussions. Quick check in the markets. The fall in tech shares dragged down most of the U.S. markets yesterday, Tuesday. The Nasdaq sliding by nearly 1.5%, S&P 500 tumbling over 0.5%, and the Dow rose by less than 1/10%. U.S. 10-year Treasury yields ticked down to 4.301%, and gold prices declined to $3,313 per troy ounce. U.S. futures are pointing to declines when the markets open later tonight Manila time. Both the Dow and the S&P down by about 0.1%, and the Nasdaq declines by 0.2%. Asian markets mostly down in the first hour of trading, tracking Wall Street's declines. Both South Korea's Kospi and Japan's Nikkei 225 fall by over 1.25% each. Australia's ASX 200 is trading higher by less than 0.1%. Let's take a quick check on our markets. PSCI opening this Wednesday higher by 0.1% at 6,288. The local bourse slipped yesterday, Tuesday, by 0.1% ahead of the Fed Chair's Jackson Hole speech later this week. The broader all-shares index dipped by nearly 0.1%, with the sectoral gauges mostly in the red. As for the Philippine peso, it opens today weaker, 57.25 to the dollar. Peso closed yesterday weaker at 57.10 against the greenback. 10-year government bond yields ticked down to 5.986% from the previous close of 6.01%. The Bureau of Treasury fully awarded the reissued 10-year T-bond during Tuesday's auction. With a remaining term of 9 years and 8 months, the reissued T-bond fetched an average of 5.997%, lower than the 6.285% average rate during the previous auction and the 6% current secondary market. As for the new issuance of the RTBs, the retail Treasury bonds, the opening bid stands at 5.87%, and the opening offer is pegged at 5.86%. As policymakers attempt getting to the root of ghost flood control projects, the world's highest court, the International Court of Justice, earlier ruled polluting countries may be in breach of international law if they do not protect the planet from the existential threat posed by climate change. The advisory opinion marks the first time the ICJ, based in The Hague, has formally addressed the climate crisis. The ICJ has made it clear polluting countries must not only cut back emissions, but also provide solutions to climate harms. With us now for more is Nisha Alicer, Chief Equity Strategist for DA Market Securities. Good to see you again, Nisha. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Cathy. Good to see you again.
Okay, so funding for adaptation projects like flood control here are currently being investigated. How much of an impact is this having on the Philippines, as the ICJ has made countries accountable for the first time on the climate crisis?
Well, the ICJ focuses actually on polluting countries that have impacted on small island developing states. It is very pertinent that locally we manage our funds as well. So a reason to be able to receive funds is if we have proper structures in place that are transparent, that are able to really prove and facilitate just transition for people. So it's very important for both external and internal systems to be in place to make sure that the money goes in the right places.
Right, are we talking about the government or the private sector or both?
Well, government definitely has funds that go into these infrastructures, but at the same time, these infrastructures don't have to be concrete. They can be green. There's green gray infrastructure. There's nature-based solutions. So there's a lot of technology also that we really need to be able to access today to have smart climate technology work for us. At the same time, private corporations, there are companies that that are responsible for the higher emissions, and they are responsible also to be able to support adaptation measures as well as mitigation ones.
And we don't have to look very far because flood control projects are under adaptation solutions. So that's a good place to start.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, the Philippines is one of the most vulnerable. We are an archipelagic state. Most people live by the coast, and there are already studies that talk about submersions across nationwide. So, as someone in development management, I definitely want to advocate for more transparency in government, and it's really about accountability for all parties involved. There is such a thing that we call an inaction triangle, where civil sector might point to private sector or private sector might point to government. But the truth of the matter is there are a lot of like silent understandings that procurement processes can be very opaque. A lot of misuse of funds can happen at this stage. And there are a lot of parties involved, so it's impossible that we cannot be more transparent about those. It has to be that people must not be complicit, organizations must not be complicit, and they must try to change the systems, especially as it's an existential crisis.
So can Philippine corporates take the lead then, considering that an unsustainable business is bad business?
That's right. Yes. A lot of our Philippine corporations are really poised to be able to provide that rigor in terms of being able to access that funding that is available for green transition measures. And at the same time, we know that being climate resilient also means market efficiency. In fact, you're able to protect yourself or insure yourself from possible losses. That can already be foreseen, that can be computed somehow, and so corporations will be able to support government, but again, there has to be checks and balances. And I think I also would like to advocate for more inclusive participation, not just the big companies, but there are a lot of very viable companies nationwide that can support infrastructure projects that can also support more transparency and more accountability.
All right, that's loud and clear then. Thank you so much for your insights, Nisha Alicer of DA Market Securities. Now, Meralco has sealed a new deal with South Korea's DL Engineering and Construction to explore small modular reactors, or SMRs, in the Philippines. The agreement covers feasibility studies, site assessments, and long-term planning. Meralco says it sees SMRs as a future-ready solution, particularly for off-grid areas. The company has also held talks with other South Korean firms and is sending more scholars abroad under its nuclear training program. Executives say the partnerships reflect Meralco's push for the responsible development of nuclear energy in the country. PLDT Enterprise has reaffirmed its commitment to the contact center industry, calling it a key pillar of the IT BPM sector and a driver of inclusive growth. At the Contact Islands 2025 conference in Cebu, the company cited its 24-year partnership with the Contact Center Association of the Philippines. It also highlighted investments in subsea cables, the Vitro Santa Rosa Data Center, and private 5G solutions, along with upskilling programs in analytics and AI. PLDT Enterprise says these initiatives will help keep the Philippines a global leader in customer experience. Sabuana Lulier and Maya have teamed up to expand access to credit, remittance, and digital banking nationwide. The deal includes the rollout of Easy Loan, a credit line of up to 30,000 pesos, and working capital loans of up to 350,000 pesos for agents and micro merchants with quick disbursement and flexible terms. Maya Center agents can now also offer international remittances through Sabuana's network, creating new income streams while strengthening grassroots financial services. Meralco, PLDT, Maya, and Signal, the owner of this channel, are all part of the MVP Group. That is it for Money Talks. I'm Cathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. here on One News. Have a great day ahead.